and it happens at the perfect time, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes we think, well, dang, I was supposed to do it at this time, but
Yeah.
you weren't supposed to. You
Oh, for
thought you
sure.
were. You
Oh, for
thought you
sure.
were, but now look how great, the story is, or how many more lessons you have.
Yeah, when I was writing the book, the writing coach, the book started off at like 40 pages of just how to get money out of a guy, right? Like just little tips. And she was like, "Oh, is this supposed to be like a short book?" I was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be like one of them little books at the front of Urban Outfitters or
Mm-hmm.
Anthropology, like just one of those little books." She was like, "Well, there's so much, this. I feel like you have so much more to offer in here." She said, so it doesn't seem like you're, doing all of this right now anymore. Like, what happened?" I was like, "Girl, I got a job." I was like, and then she said, "Oh, well, put that in the book." I was like, "Wait, what?" She was like, "What's life after running around after guys for money or having a sugar daddy? Like, what do you do after that?" I'm like, "Yeah, go get a job." She's like, "Yeah, well, let them know that too." I was like, "Oh,
I love
okay."
it. I love it. I love it because you literally put your true
Yeah,
experiences, your
yeah,
lessons learned. And I went on Amazon and I read the reviews, over 300 reviews
yeah,
from people who are like, I needed this. I didn't even
yeah,
know I needed this. So and
yeah,
so told me I needed to get it. And I'm
yeah,
so glad that I did.
yeah.
And I think because of the space that you're in, you are definitely
Mhm.
an unconventional life coach. I don't
Yeah.
know if you go by the whole coach anymore.
Oh, no,
Do you still
no.
go? No, that's old.
No, I used to. And that was actually a joke that I ran with. I was on Twitter one day and I was saying something, and some guy just said to me, "You're like a hoe coach." And I was like, "That's so funny." I was like, I'm stealing that. And
Yep.
then I yeah, I ran with it for a little while. But then as I started getting more mature, I was like,
Yeah, yeah. But listen, this is the thing. I don't think Whole Coach does you justice for all that
Mhm.
you're doing,
Yeah, no,
because
yeah,
I think that even though your original intention, like what you thought you were setting out to do,
yeah,
may have been this one thing, you're now it's so
yeah,
much more. So
yeah.
I want to talk about
Because that was pre-therapy.
right, 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 right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And it's an evolution, right? So
yeah.
I want to
Mhm.
talk about, I do want to talk about that though, because
Okay.
I personally, I ain't never had a sugar daddy, right? I always said to my, not only have I not had a sugar daddy, I be telling all my business on here, so just don't judge me.
Girl,
But
I
not
tell all my
only have
business
I
on the
never,
internet.
not only have I never had a sugar daddy, I always told myself I never dated men for money. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, Cuddy. Okay. Not that I
I
didn't
used
date
to
men.
be a sugar mama.
Listen, exactly. I was more on the other side, not
Yeah,
intentionally. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. However,
yeah,
I always said, my husband is going to be the one that does these things for me.
yes,
And,
yeah,
luckily that's kind of working out for me.
yeah.
So, but I think there are a lot of women out there who see having a sugar daddy as like this glamorous thing. So I want to talk about like what it's really like. Like, can you
Yeah.
tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, even though this is
Yeah,
your former life?
yeah. And not really, like not necessarily because I'm still I'm not married right now. So whoever I date is gonna have to spend money. And I mean, it's not necessarily gonna be considered a sugar daddy, probably, but hey, I'm not above it. So um the sugar daddy uh totem pole is very, the spectrum is very grand. Like it's so vast because you have the people do expect it to be that myth of this guy who just gives you all this money for no reason, right? Like he just gives it to you. That's what people think the sugar daddy is, when in reality most sugar daddies do want something back. And we know what that usually is, right?
Mhm.
And they may not be as aggressive as some, but eventually some people, um some people are more patient than others, let's just say that. But for the most part, um the whole idea of I'm just going to find this man who's just going to give me all his money for no reason is close to none, and so the average sugar daddy right now is probably married, old, ugly, fat, funny looking. Like there's not this. I tell people I tell people all the time, like, if you thought he's not any of those things, then he's just a boyfriend. You know, like he's just possibly your next husband. Like, I don't know why you think that you're gonna find like this really fine, eligible bachelor that's a sugar daddy. You know, like, so
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So with the sugar daddy thing, I always tell people, like, they give money because there's a need that they want, whether it's their ego stroked, sex, companionship, you know, somebody on their hip like 24/7, somebody to just freaking listen to them all the time. They definitely want stuff. And a lot of women pretend like they're not doing anything for the money, but they are. You know, sometimes it's just phone sex, sometimes it's pictures, sometimes it's like, it's so it varies.
Depends on the man.
Yeah. Yeah. It varies. But and then, you know, there's old sugar daddies, there's young sugar daddies, there's black sugar daddies, there's white sugar daddies, there's Indian sugar daddies. They're like, everybody has their own reputation. Like, there's a reputation that African guys trick, you know, like they spend a lot of money. And then there's a reputation that the old white guys are still, you know, at the top of the food chain. Like, and then, oh, you hear that the Arabs spend a lot of money, you know, like you hear all of these stereotypes, you know, and it just all depends. But you are going to be expected to do something. Something. I mean, and it all depends on whether you're willing to do it or not, you know, because for some women, I will tell you this, for some women, even the ego stroking is too much. Like, even answering the calls 10 times a day. Hey, babe, how are you doing? What you doing? Because, like, sometimes these guys are, like, super annoying, right? Like, you don't like them. You don't want to talk to them. So them calling you, like, even 3 to 10 times a day, you're like, oh, you know. But, and so for some women, they're like, listen, I can't. Like, it ain't even worth it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that, in my opinion, was why I was like, no, I can't do this, because my face is gonna tell you how I really feel. Like, what's coming out of my mouth does not matter. What I really think is gonna be on my face, and I can't pretend like I like you and I don't really like you.
I can.
How, Betty? How?
It all depends on. Well, here's the thing. I am very interested in people, regardless, right? Like, I'm not so. I like hearing stories. I like people being able to express themselves, tell me their stories, tell me about their life, whatever. So I will genuinely be interested in that. So that will make a guy feel like he's being listened to, you know, he's interesting. And sometimes he really is. I might not like him physically. I might not want him to be my husband. I might not want him to, you know, I might not want to have a child with him, but I'm genuinely interested in his story or even his success, you know, like, gotcha. I've gotten so many gems from, because they have money, right? So how are they making money? What did they do? Where did, you know, so I'm interested in hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then they think that I really like them, I guess.